When a child drops down onto the supermarket floor, their voice slicing through the still air, eyes brimming with tears, cheeks flushed with rage, we are not merely witnessing a tantrum. We are seeing a profound expression of emotions yet unnamed, an unmet need, a clash between the inner world and the outer. Tantrums are not just public nuisances. They are not simply acts of defiance or signs of a child out of control. They are unspoken cries for help, the raw survival instincts of a child grappling with a universe of feelings too vast for them to contain. Children lack the full language to express disappointment, insecurity, hurt, or the fear of abandonment. So their bodies speak for them. The wailing, the throwing, the stomping, it's a primal language, fierce, unrefined, and painfully honest. In those moments, parents are often swept into the storm. Embarrassment, anger, the fear of being judged. They may shout, scold, yank the child up. Others freeze, hoping the emotional hurricane will pass on its own. But if you look closely into the child's eyes, if you really pay attention, you'll see a flicker of alarm. A silent question hangs in the air: who will help me make sense of what's happening inside me? You see, a child throwing a tantrum is not a bad child. They are a soul in turmoil, a mind trying to find shape and grounding. And if we, the adults, only respond to what's on the surface, rushing to extinguish the behavior instead of reaching the roots, we miss the most precious opportunity to teach the child how to understand themselves. Imagine a child's mind as an uncharted forest. Emotions are wild creatures roaming free, sometimes the timid fox of fear, other times the black panther of fury. The child doesn't yet know which tracks to follow, how to avoid the beasts. And during a tantrum, all those creatures rise up at once, howling and taking over. The child is overwhelmed, yet in that chaos, they also feel a strange power, for they realize, when I scream, the whole world stops. If this loop is left unresolved, it risks becoming habitual behavior. But if the adult remains calm enough to listen, steady enough not to be pulled into the emotional vortex, the tantrum transforms into a bridge. A moment to teach the child to name their feelings. An opportunity to say, what you're feeling is real, but you are not your anger. So what lies beneath the surface of a tantrum? In many cases, it is the need for control. Children live in a world where nearly everything is decided for them: when to eat, what to wear, where to go, who to play with. The lack of autonomy can provoke anxiety. A tantrum becomes their desperate attempt to reclaim some power. When they're denied a snack or a toy, it's not just the object that's lost, it symbolizes, I have no say in anything. The frustration then erupts into rebellion. In other cases, the tantrum is a sign of overload. Children are sensory beings. Noise, bright lights, packed schedules, constant demands, all of it can exhaust their nervous systems. The tantrum is the pressure valve bursting. It's not an attempt to manipulate anyone, but a cry for help: I can't take anymore. We, the parents, the guides, don't always have the right answers. But we can choose one thing: to be present. Not swept away. Not reactive. Not oversoothing nor punishing. Just present, like an anchor in the storm, speaking with our steady voice, with eyes that say, you're really upset. I can see that. When you're ready, I'm here. In the quiet that your presence offers, the child gets their first chance to notice their own feelings. And from that awareness, something shifts. From a mind flooded with chaos, the child learns the art of self-regulation, not through threats or rewards, but through the loving presence of an adult who stayed. Let that presence be the beginning, but being present does not mean being passive. For within every tantrum, there are moments when the adult must intervene, not to extinguish the anger, but to guide, to gently lead the child out of the labyrinth of emotions. The difference lies in how we intervene, not by seizing control, but by sharing it, not by denying feelings, but by helping the child name them. When a child screams for not being allowed to keep playing, pounding fists on chairs, legs flailing, what they need is not someone who can shout louder. What they need is someone calm enough to kneel down to eye level, using the language of steady gaze and grounded voice to say things like, you're really angry about having to stop playing, aren't you? You don't want to leave right now. That's a big feeling. I see that. Do you see it? In that very moment, the child is no longer alone inside the storm of their inner world. You have helped them name what they feel, and that alone has immense power. Because when a feeling is named, it is no longer a shadowy monster lurking in the dark. It becomes something that can be seen, understood, and eventually released. That is the foundation of emotional intelligence, not something taught from books, but from countless moments where an adult chooses connection over control. And in the journey of raising a child, we are not only teaching them right from wrong, but teaching them to understand themselves, so they may form healthy, meaningful connections with others. Some children learn to use tantrums as a tool because in the past, that was the only way they received attention. If, after every outburst, the adult gives in, or soothes with food, screens, or rewards, then the child begins to internalize a hidden lesson: when I lose control, I get what I want. At that point, the tantrum stops being merely emotional. It becomes strategic. And gradually, adults themselves may unwittingly reinforce this. Not out of malice, but out of fear, out of helplessness, out of a desire to make the chaos stop right now. But these actions, even when done unconsciously, sow the seeds of future relationships built on conditions. The child begins to believe, I am only loved, only worthy, when I create enough noise. Healing does not come from harsh discipline, nor from indulging the child just to keep the peace. It arises from the magical balance between firm boundaries and deep empathy. It looks like an adult saying, I don't agree with you yelling or hitting things. That's not safe. But I'm here, when you're ready to tell me what you need in a different way. That sentence holds a quiet power. It draws a clear line, while leaving the door of connection wide open. The child learns that emotions are something that can be shared, not something to be suppressed or exaggerated. And slowly, the tantrum becomes a passing gust of wind, no longer the storm that shakes the entire household. To reach that place, adults must learn something first: how to manage their own emotions. For no one can help a child regulate anger while being pulled under by their own. No one can offer calm when inside the roar of unresolved pain from the past is screaming for attention. If a parent grew up in an environment that lacked patience, where crying was punished, anger was shamed, they might react harshly to their child's tantrum. Because deep down, they're hearing their own childhood screams echoing back, screams that were never answered, and so, healing a child's tantrum becomes a chance to heal the adult's own fractures. It's an invitation to return, to revisit the emotions that were buried, the rage that was forbidden. And from that place, to learn how to stand firm like a tree rooted in the storm of childhood, so that a young soul may know, they do not have to weather the storm alone. Children are not born with the ability to self-regulate their emotions. That is something they must learn. And this learning process doesn't come from lectures or instructions, but through repeated experiences, moments where their emotions are seen, accepted, and gently guided. Each tantrum is a test from the young mind: is the world safe enough for me to show my vulnerability? Imagine a 3-year-old who has just lost their favorite toy. They scream, burst into tears, cry uncontrollably, and collapse onto the floor. In the adult world, this may seem like a small matter: we can just buy another one. But in the child's inner world, this is a real loss. A sense of emptiness, helplessness, panic, all rising at once with no clear way out. And if the adult responds with, it's just a toy, stop overreacting, the child doesn't learn how to calm down. Instead, they learn, my emotions are not allowed to exist. Children learn to manage their emotions by being allowed to feel them, within a safe space and with clear boundaries. This is the art of holding space for the storm without being swept away by it. A parent might gently say, you're very sad right now, I can see that. That toy was very special to you. Then simply pause. Sit close. No lecture, no quick fix, and then, as the intense emotions begin to settle, as the child's breathing starts to slow, comes a golden moment to teach. Next time you feel sad, you can hug me and say, Mommy, I'm really sad. We'll find a way together. At that moment, you're not just teaching new behavior. You're helping rebuild an emotional language, word by word, breath by breath. Many parents mistake teaching self-control for suppressing emotions as quickly as possible. But control doesn't mean locking emotions down. It doesn't mean don't be angry or don't cry. Control means noticing when emotions arise, learning to let them pass without causing destruction. It's a skill many adults still struggle with, because they were never taught. So how does a child learn this skill? By watching adults mirror it. Children sense when an adult is angry but still speaks calmly. They notice when a parent steps back instead of exploding. They hear phrases like, I'm feeling frustrated, so I'm going to take a deep breath. Then we'll talk. These are the lessons that cut deeper than any rule, lessons taught by presence. In many cases, a tantrum isn't a result of bad behavior, but a build-up. Children, like adults, have limits. After a long day at school, navigating countless demands, enduring restrictions, or when they are hungry, tired, or overstimulated, they become primed for meltdown. In such moments, even a small trigger can spill the cup. Understanding this allows adults to prepare. Create a rhythm that respects the child's limits. Allow space between transitions. Offer small choices like, would you like the blue shirt or the yellow one? So they feel a sense of control. And most importantly, carve out time for deep, undistracted connection each day. No screens, no multitasking, a time when the child is simply allowed to be. Without judgment or pressure, the more secure a child feels in their relationship with the adult, the less they need tantrums as a form of expression. Because the child knows, I don't need to scream to be heard. And then one day, instead of crying and kicking, your child will come to you, wrap their arms around you, and whisper, "I'm really sad, Mommy." Just one sentence, but behind it lies an entire journey of love, patience, and silent but unwavering companionship. Something miraculous happens when a child feels emotionally safe. They begin to explore the language of their soul. Not through forceful teaching or pressure, but through gentle resonance. Children learn to listen to themselves by being listened to by adults. In the compassionate gaze of a parent, a child sees themselves, not as a tantrum, not as a bad kid, but as a growing human being, learning to navigate the complex currents of emotion within. A tantrum, when understood for what it truly is no longer something that needs to be handled. It is a natural part of brain development. Modern neuroscience confirms this. In young children, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for regulation and reasoning, is still immature. When a child is overstimulated, the emotional brain, the limbic system, takes over. That means the child is not choosing to have a tantrum, nor are they trying to be difficult. They are caught in a neurological storm, where their capacity for rational thought is temporarily disconnected. When this is understood, adults can take things less personally. Anger gives way to compassion. Instead of thinking, "They're trying to embarrass me," remind yourself, "Their brain is overwhelmed. They need my help." And paradoxically, it is precisely those chaotic moments, when met with calm and presence, that form the foundation of deep attachment. The child won't remember what toy you bought that day, but they will remember that you sat down, held their hand, and softly said, "It's okay, sweetheart. Let's breathe together. I'm here." Children who experience this kind of repeated support, where tantrums are not punished but transformed, grow up with something essential, a belief in their own ability to self-regulate. They learn that emotions are not enemies. That sadness, anger, frustration, all have a rightful place. All can be heard, felt, and allowed to pass. From this belief grows a deep self-worth, not based on achievements, not earned through praise, but rooted in being seen, understood, and unconditionally accepted. On the other hand, children who are not supported during emotional storms often grow up with shame around their feelings. Being angry is wrong. Crying is weakness. And to protect themselves, they learn to hide, suppress, or worse, numb out their feelings completely. These children may grow into adults who are always fine, always in control, but deep down, feel lost in their own emotional landscape. In contrast, a child who has been guided through tantrums with presence and care will have a rich emotional vocabulary. They will have the words to express, the trust to share, and the capacity to navigate relationships with more balance, because they have experienced honest, respectful communication from an early age. Imagine standing beside a child who has just gone through an emotional outburst. Their face is still flushed, breath still quick. You kneel down, wipe away their tears, and gently ask, "What did it feel like inside your heart just now?" They might shake their head, unsure how to answer. But then, if you offer, "Did you feel angry? Or sad? Or did it all just feel like too much?" The child begins to recognize, and next time, those feelings won't be so invisible. In a society that often demands children be obedient, well-behaved, the path of raising a child who understands and regulates their emotions is not an easy one. It asks adults to unlearn old habits, to choose listening over control, to choose enduring connection over quick discipline, but the reward is immeasurable, a child who doesn't just behave well, but one who knows how to understand themselves, hold themselves, and love themselves. And in doing so, you're not just raising a child. You're planting seeds for a generation that knows how to love, connect, and live truthfully from the inside out. The most paradoxical situation in parenting is when a child's tantrum awakens old wounds in the adult. A screaming child can unconsciously trigger memories in a parent, memories of times when they were scolded for having emotions. When you find yourself angry at a child who is angry, it's not just the volume of their cry that stirs something in you. It's the echo from your past, a part of you that was once left uncomforted, abandoned in the depths of your own sadness, and that is precisely why guiding a child through a tantrum requires emotional maturity in the adult. Without self-awareness, adults can easily swing to two extremes, either suppressing the child's emotions through power, "Stop crying right now, or you'll get a spanking," or giving in helplessly, "Fine, take it, just please stop crying." Neither reaction leads the child to a place of safety. One side breeds fear, the other chaos. But true emotional safety lies somewhere in between, a space with clear boundaries and a loving presence. One thing must be made clear: setting boundaries does not conflict with compassion. In fact, children feel safest when they sense that their emotional storm cannot shake the adult. When you can say, "I know you want to stay and play longer, but it's time to go. We can't stay And you hold to that, even as your child cries and screams, you are teaching them a vital life lesson, that emotions can be intense, but they can also be contained. Imagine a child's soul as an unshaped vessel. When adults set boundaries with a calm voice and a steady, but not cold, attitude, the child feels the framework around their emotions. That very framework gives the child the permission to let go, to cry fully, because they sense that someone is there to hold them. One of the biggest misunderstandings is the belief that handling a tantrum is a task that must be completed quickly. But in truth, it is a process. Each tantrum is an opportunity. And each time a parent chooses not to react with anger or bribery, but instead offers true connection, even if no immediate result is visible, new neural pathways are forming. In the child's brain, science calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to adapt and rewire. It means that each time a child experiences a healthy emotional response, the brain remembers. Gradually, the child who once erupted easily will begin to learn how to pause, recognize, and self-regulate. But that learning does not come from instruction, it comes from how we live beside them, and you, the companion, will grow through this journey too. At first, you may feel exhausted, doubtful. Some days, you will have to take 10 deep breaths or step out of the room to avoid losing your composure. But eventually, you will begin to realize something. In learning how to embrace your child's tantrums, you are also learning how to embrace the child within yourself, the one who was never fully heard, who had to cry in silence. Healing does not occur only in the child. It happens in the heart of the adult, each time they choose connection over control, each time they choose presence over dominance. It is a profoundly human journey, imperfect but sincere enough to create lasting transformation, and then, when you look back on this journey, you won't only remember the supermarket meltdowns, the kicking feet. You'll remember the look in your child's eyes after the rage, the eyes that slowly began to trust. You'll remember the first time your child said, "I'm really mad, but I won't scream." And you'll know, deep down, that every effort, every held-back sigh, every time you laid your hand on their shoulder and whispered, "I'm here," was not in vain. You didn't just raise a child. You planted a seed in this world, a human being who knows how to feel, how to empathize, with themselves and with others. There is a quiet form of maturity that often goes unnoticed. It is when a child who once threw chaotic tantrums now bows their head in silence amid disappointment. When their eyes no longer carry panic, but a quiet effort to hold something together inside. This is not suppression, it is mastery. And it does not emerge from punishment, but from being listened to hundreds of times. At its core, a tantrum is a test of unconditional love. The child is unconsciously asking, "Will you still love me when I'm not sweet, not obedient, when I scream and disrupt everything?" If the answer comes in the form of patience, the child grows a vital belief that they don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love, and that love, when paired with clear boundaries, teaches them the most precious lesson: emotions are not meant to be shut down, but to be understood and managed. Not because others demand it, but because it's the path to inner peace. On the other hand, if a child is often made to feel ashamed of their emotions, "You're being bad, you're embarrassing us, crying makes you look ugly," they won't learn emotional regulation. They will learn to hide. Some may become anxiously obedient, always trying to predict adults' feelings just to survive. Others may rebel more fiercely, as a way to assert their worth in a world where they feel they don't belong. A child who knows they are loved even when they're not being lovable won't need to throw tantrums to be noticed. They won't need to create drama to feel connected, because they know, just being myself is enough to be embraced. From such relationships, something subtle begins to bloom: trust. The child will start coming to their parents not only when they're happy, but also when they're sad, angry, or ashamed. Because they know, here, there will be no rejection or punishment, only a hug, a look without judgment. From that trust, a child gains a skill greater than any lecture could give: the ability to be emotionally honest. They won't need to hide their sadness. They won't need to pretend to be strong. And when they grow up, they'll be able to show up authentically in their relationships, because once, they were treated as a whole human being. So with tantrums, the most important thing is not to handle them quickly or cleanly, but to create the right memory. The memory that, even when I lost control, Mom kept hers. The memory that, there is a safe place for all my emotions, even the stormiest ones. The memory that, emotions don't need to be hidden, they just need to be understood and guided. And you, the one who has weathered so many tense, exhausting moments, who has so often wanted to scream but instead took a deep breath, you are engraving those memories into the heart of your child. You are giving them a treasure no formal education can provide: the ability to empathize with themselves. Not every day will go smoothly. There will still be days your child screams. There will be days you lose your patience and say words you regret. But if you can come back, sit down, apologize, and share sincerely, "I was tired today. I raised my voice. I'm sorry I scared you. Then even mistakes become lessons. Your child will see that adults have emotions too. And the important thing is not to be perfect, but to make things right and reconnect. From that, a new kind of generation can grow. People who can say sorry without feeling weak, who can set boundaries without becoming cold, who can love without needing control. You're not just raising a child through a tantrum. You are laying the foundation for compassion, for mutual understanding between humans, starting from those very first cries, and the patient presence you bring, every single day.